All right, so welcome to the final track provided by Benoit
Peccatte.
Sorry. With sharing IT automation benefits in a team with Rudder. Enjoy.
Hello everyone. I'm here to talk to you about Rudder and especially why it is useful to use it within a team. So first let's talk about me. I'm a sysadmin, I'm a developer too. And now I work at Normation with the company producing Rudder and NCF. So Rudder is the tool we're going to talk about. And NCF is a framework to write techniques and rules easily, configuration rules easily. I'm French, I think you can hear it. And so I hope you'll understand me. So what is Rudder? How many of you know Rudder? Okay, I was expecting that. So that's why I have a few slides to explain you what Rudder is. And then I'll talk about why it is interesting in face of other configuration tools. And I'll talk about how people use it on their daily life, so that I can show you a little demonstration. So, Rudder is an automated configuration tool, like Puppet, Chef, and a lot of other ones. So you know the benefits of using one. You can deploy faster. You can be more responsive. You can manage a lot of machines with the same configuration tool, and so you can scale easily. And you can improve reliability, which means that errors are tracked, and so you can see why and when there have been an error. What's specific about Rudder? It's that it has, from the start, been designed to be a tool for automation and compliance. So automation, and compliance is the fact that you can, at all the time, know what the status of your rules are, and you can now you can write rules just to check something, not to configure it, but to check. For example, if you need to have to comply to some legal rules, you may want to check things without changing anything. Its goal is to have a simplified user experience. You can easily use it if you don't know how to write code. So there's a web interface that allows you to configure things. Well, you can't do everything with the web interface, but most of it can be done via the web interface. It's based on CF Engine, so we'll see why later. It has graphical reporting and can work on almost everything. So from Windows, Linux, Android, and a lot of older platforms. And it's fully open source. There's no enterprise edition. It's fully GPL. So why did we choose CF Engine? CF Engine is not easy to use, but it doesn't eat a lot of RAM. So it can use between 10 and 40 megabytes of RAM. And it takes really a few seconds to run, most often less than a second. It can work on almost every system. And so with this approach, we can do continuous checking. We check almost all the time. Wow. And CF Engine can still work even if there's a problem with the network or with the main server. So if the server dies, CF Engine continues to apply its own rules as if the server was still there. And when the server comes back, it just updates its own rules, and it continues to work. And our codes push all the reporting we did in the meantime, and you have the reporting. So with CF Engine, we can now have really fast checking. Most of the time we use a 5 minutes interval, and we check every 5 minutes everything. people can adjust this interval. So one of the goal that made Rudder possible was to separate configuration from implementation. Some people know how to write code, and some people don't, and don't want to learn. So we just separated the code that implements how to configure something, and the settings of its parameters. So all parameters are applied via the web interface. And as I already said, it works on as many platforms as possible, and we have reporting. So when you start a configuration management project, what do you do? I'm sure you already did in your company. So you choose a tool, and you write code, and it works. But that's not exactly how it works. There's a steep learning curve, which means that a lot of people have to take time to learn the new tool. They have to take time to learn how to code for this configuration management tool. And they use new concept, a specific syntax. And some people don't know what they will gain because they have to take a lot of time to use this tool. And so it's not obvious that it will be a gain. And some people just think that it's easy to write a shell script. And they're right, but it's not a gain. So if those are really problems, why do configuration management projects work? Well, often it's because of a hero. There's someone who tried to put his preferred tool, and he succeed. So I'm sure one of you has already done that and put Puppet or Chef or another one into your company. But the problem is that you're the only one who knows how to use it. So you may be 2 or 3, but not the whole team. So there's a problem with this. It's that this hero, the man who knows everything, can become a bottleneck and can he has to do things for other people. By example, if I'm a developer, I want to make something work, but I don't want to learn this tool. I don't know how to use it. I have to ask this hero, the guy who knows everything, to do it for me. So the result is that you have more work after you have put a configuration management tool. And as another example is, this is the supervision team. We have a problem. But the problem, I think it comes from the configuration tool, and it has been a change today, but we don't know how to use it. So I have to wake you up at night to know how to use it and to have your help. So now the hero has to wake up at night, whereas he didn't have to before. So this is this typical solution. If you want to do something that will be easier and faster for you, and at the end you end up by only developing your tool, but not doing the original task. So what can we do for this hero? Well, first, to avoid the steep learning curve, we can separate content and control, meaning that if you know how to write the configuration techniques, you can write them, but you don't have to teach how to write them to everyone. Just write them and reuse them in a different form from the web interface. And so the control, which means the parameters in themselves, for example, the port on which SSH is listening, or anything that is strictly a parameter, is not into the technique, is not into the code. So people can use it without knowing how it works. For people who lack motivation, you can show the benefits because we have constant reporting. So you always know where it is when you're working on a project. You know if it has been completed or not. because you know how many machine has applied this the rule that you were writing. And to to avoid the frustration of people wanting just to write shell script, we provide tools to make it easy to write your own rules, and we provide a lot of techniques from within the shelf. Already have them. So the advantage of Rudder is it's easy to use, and almost everybody can use it. Well, almost. But that's very theoretical. So you may want to know what it looks like, because these are just slides. So first I'll talk to you about how it works within the product. This looks like a bit complex schema, but we'll see it later and see how they interact, each piece interact with the other ones. Just have to know that a lot of people intervene almost everywhere, and depending on their role and their knowledge, they can do things on different parts of the product. So in theory, when you work in a team, there are people defining policies, people defining what we should change, what we should do. There are people writing the code, writing the technique. So they are mostly experts. That's our hero from before. And there are a lot of different people that configure and that put parameters in those techniques. And you have a continuous verification, you have validation. So you know what's going on, and you have reporting for everyone. And this is the Deming wheel, and you continue and continue. But we see that in practice, it's not always the case. Here's an example. So I'm Alice. Hello. I want to know if there's any more Debian 6 servers, because I want to remove the mirror, so to have some space. So can I do it? Well, let's check on Rudder. So I've already installed Rudder on a small platform. It's running Vagrant, and so I'll connect. Okay. Okay. It's a bit okay. It's okay. So you have the homepage of the tool. Here you know how the current compliance, the problems, and the breakdown of the content of your platform. So all nodes and how they are. Well, here it's easy because almost all my agents are similar, so you don't have a lot of things to see. But first, let's go and search nodes that are Debian 6. So let's choose an operating system name. It will be Debian. And another criterion. The version will be 6. anything. Let's search. And we can see that there's one machine that is Debian 6. If we have seen recently, and we can have more details if I click here, details about the machine. So you see that it's a VirtualBox, and it's hardware, file system, everything that we can get from the inventory. Because Rudder comes with an inventory tool that collects everything on the agent to know what the machine looks like. So the answer is no, you can't remove your Debian mirror because we still have Debian 6. But there's only one machine, so it will soon be possible. So from what I said before, we have in Rudder we have nodes, and nodes is the the machine that you manage. And on this node, we have an inventory agent that collects a lot of data that we use to configure the machine. And we use them to make groups that make it easy to apply configuration to a group of similar nodes. So here's another example. So I'm the security officer, and we shouldn't allow SSH to be route to connect via SSH. And so the question is, have we done that? And if we have not done that, we should do it now. So even if you're not a sysadmin, even if you don't know how to write code, you can do it. So I show you the next part. It's just have to write a directive that changes the SSH configuration and apply it to the nodes you want to change. So here's how you do it in the application, and we'll do it live. So first, write directives, which are parameters for a host, for anything, in fact. And we come from a large library of predefined technique that can be used. And one of them allows you to configure SSH. So let's configure SSH and give a name to this technique. It's a bit redundant, but and you can provide a description, but I won't for now. So this here you can see the details and what you configure. For example, if you have more than one SSH server, you can edit another configuration file. And there are a lot of parameters. I won't detail you each parameter because it will be a bit long. And for some complex parameters, you have help. So my goal is to disable root login. It's here. So it will be disabled by default. And I save this technique. And each time I do something within this software, it asks me to provide a reason, an explanation of the change. Well, I don't have to fill it, but it's a good idea to fill it because you then have an history of everything you've done on your infrastructure. So okay, so this is what I called before a directive. Yes, so directive is just a bunch of parameters. It's not applied to anything now. So I'll create a rule that applies this directive to some machines. So let's go on rules and create a rule. Okay. And now I can say I'm going to apply this directive to, let's say, all managed nodes, because we want to apply it everywhere. Okay. And now, okay, so we can see that this is just in application, which means that the agent on all the machines don't already have their rule and haven't applied it now. So we can have details, and we can see that this directive is waiting for more data to know what's going on. So I'm going to wait, but you can force the agent to run on everything to have the information faster. So we've seen that it's easy to write, to change the configuration of, by example, SSH without knowing anything about configuration management, without knowing a language. here's another example. So we need more servers. So I just want to add a server to all the servers we have and manage it like before, like the other one before. So it's the same thing as before, which means that we have an inventory on this node, and we use this inventory to automatically add this node to a group, by example, the developer group. And it will all the rules that are applied to this group will be applied to this new machine. So this node is already installed. I did it earlier. If you want to know what I did just to install the agent, I installed with a single package. It has no dependencies, so you can install it using dpkg or anything you want. And I configured the server it is going to talk to. And that's all. Well, I sent the inventory so that the server knows it. So now I can see that within accept new nodes, there's a node that have all the information I wanted, and its name agent 5. And we have all its inventory, so we know what the machine is. And if I click here, it tells me that when it wants that all these rules will be applied automatically to this machine. So I don't have many rules, but if I had 100 ones, it will list them, and we would know what will be the state of the machine after it has been accepted. So let's accept it. Okay, so there's no new node to accept. But if I go to the list of nodes, I will see that on this one too, so let's see the reports of this node. On this one too, it's still waiting, because we still don't know what has been done on the agent. It's probably trying to apply something now. So once again, we were able to add a machine to a group, to add a machine to developer group, for example, and without knowing anything about how to code. Another feature of Rudder is the visibility of what you do. So, by example, here it's someone who wants to know how the migration goes. The migration for a certificate change, by example. So we'll see that I made a rule to apply this change. So we'll see if it's okay or not. So I'm still connected, and I'm going to the rule that apply this change. Okay. It's this one. Okay, it's still applying because it's still applying the new rules we made earlier. I may have to wait a bit because we don't have the real data. Well, you can already see that that some rules are applied. Well, part of the rules. Okay. Okay, and you have the breakdown from machine to machine. So this machine just applied, had a command execution on its technique, and it was not necessary to do it. It wanted to copy a file, it could, it did it. It updated the package and did it. Well, it didn't do anything because it was already there, and changed permissions. So on other agents, I wanted to show you one of them. Okay, so here we see that the progress is not completely finished because there's 5% of error on this rule. So we know that there's a problem somewhere and it's not finished. Okay, I'm already on it. So here on the agent 2, you can dig down and see what's going on. And the package install step was not right. They had a problem. They couldn't install it, the engine couldn't install Python 3 OpenSSL library. And if you recall correctly, it's because agent 2 is the last Debian 6 on this infrastructure, and there's no such package on Debian 6. So you know where you are. You know if it's finished or not. And if within some time this machine is upgraded, you will be on Debian 7, and everything will be okay instantly. Well, after a few minutes. So we have the main page shows you the global compliance, the details of everything on your platform. So currently that we have only 64% compliance, which means that there's some problems. And here it is the detail on with a color code. That means that 4% don't need to do anything, 35% are correctly applied, 47% are waiting for something, and 13% of errors. So we already have an overview of our platform. So and every rule, every node, everything can be detailed, and you can drill down to know what the status of each component is. So if you run a command within a technique, you can have the status of this command. You don't only have the status of your own rule, you have everything in detail. So here's another example. We have an excessive load on our database. I think something has changed. But what? So let's see. So we track everything that's going on within Rudder. And so everything generates an event. And we have the list of all events here. And some events have details. So you know what has changed and have the details of this. So let's look for PostgreSQL. And we see that yesterday there was a change on a directive. So on a bunch of configuration sample. And we can see that here the shared buffer usage has changed. Someone has changed the parameter for shared buffer on PostgreSQL. So we know that it was yesterday at that time. We know that the guy put a reason, so explaining why he did that. We know who did it, Bob. And we can roll back. We can come back to this state and change everything, and everything that has been done after it can be rolled back to just before or just after this state. But if you look, you can find other interesting informations. And Postgres, by example, what was the first rule, the first modification when it was down. And you have some things that have no rollback possibility. It's just because the Rudder does automatically things. If it's automatic, it will redo it again when you roll back, so you can't roll back. So yes, that's what we've just seen. So another use case. Yes, now you know that there has been a problem with PostgreSQL, so we want everything to have a double validation, to be validated by someone else. Okay, so how do we do this? Well, it is possible within Rudder. So there's a lot of settings within the application, and you can force people to go through change request. And if you go through change request, someone else has to validate what you just did. And for the demonstration, we can allow self-validation, but you know, it's not a good idea, but I'll do it. And another thing is that you've seen that everything we did, there was a change, a message that was asked to the user. You can either disable it or make it mandatory, so that everybody has to write something. So I won't change it. So now there's a new entry here, and each time you want to change something, by example, we'll change this PostgreSQL thing. Okay, where is it? Okay, so if you want to see the technique, it's an addition of a configuration file that does essentially a replacement of a line. Okay, so here it is. We'll put another value like this. Okay, so now it's a different message. You have you can't validate it, you just submit it for validation. So it's not, nothing has changed when I will submit it. I have to, okay. So now there's one change request. We're already on it. And you can, I'll have to connect with another account. My example, let's say Bob. And Bob can validate this and say, yes, I agree. It's the change we wanted. So here's the history of the change request. And the diff is a raw technical detail on what is going to change. But we can see that here we're going to change the shared buffers line. And I can validate. And you'll see here that there's 2 steps validation. You can put it in pending deployment. You can put it in deployed, which means that if you want to accept things but not deploy it right now, because by example you do change only on Monday or only on Friday if you're audacious, you can just put it in pending deployment and wait for someone to deploy it later. Or if I say deployed and I'm okay, this will validate the change. So now it's if it's on other machines. Well, the SQL machine. Okay, so here's okay, and the workflow. The workflow is so 3 steps. First, you put a change request in pending validation. You make a change request, then you put it in pending validation. Maybe because you just made it, and then you can put it in pending deployment or go straight to deployed. It depends on your workflow and how you work. And of course, you can cancel it. So another one. So I'm a developer. I don't know how to use any tool, but I want a new configuration file for our application, and I want to put it on all our servers. And this configuration file will have some content that will be different from one server to another. So how do you do that? Well, it's now that you write technique. You start to write code. And this code, you'll write it. You can then share it with other people. And we'll see that since a few months, you can write code not only from your text editor, but you can write it from the web interface too. So I'll show you this method. No. So let's write a new technique. So it's code that says how to do things. So we'll try to configure the application. No, send. Ooh la la. Okay. And so the technique is made of successive call of a method. So I add one method, which will be copy a file from a remote source. I'll copy the file from the server to the local machine, to the agent. We can't see it. Okay, it's here. So the parameters are here. It's just the source file path and the destination file path. And that's all. So I hope I have it here. So there's a shared file directory that you can share with other people. And what I've not said is that our developer just put the configuration file here. And he wants us to put the host name here. So first thing is that we're going to use Mustache as templating management, templating code. So I'll put the Mustache form of the variable. So this is our configuration file that we're going to put. So the source path is this. We want the source file, not just the path, just a directory. And the destination file will be a temporary file on the destination because we want to first download it and then apply the templating. So the destination file will be something like here. There's a temporary directory for that. Okay. So we just copied a file. We just wrote code to copy a file from the server to the agent. Now we want this to be a template that will be put somewhere on the destination agent. So there's a file template. So I want to use a Mustache template. And the file will be this one. And I want to put it somewhere, let's say SRV. Okay. And that's it. So now we've got a technique that is able to configure your application from a template that's put on the server. And this configuration will be put on agent wherever you apply this technique. So as we did before, to apply this technique, you just create a directive with parameters. There's no parameter here. Where is it? Not specific enough. Did I forget it? Did I forget to save? It's called Simplified Notes here. Okay, it's here. So we just create a bunch of parameters. And there's no parameter. I didn't put any. Here's a message again. I think I will remove the change request because it's a bit, it's not easy to make change with it. Okay. And so let's apply this rule to new servers. I don't know which groups I have. Okay, so now I just apply this, what I've done, to a bunch of machines. So it was this directive. And I can apply to either groups that I made or global groups. So let's say to the test server. Test servers, it's a group, we don't know yet. Okay. So now this will be applied on all test servers, and the configuration file will be applied with a template on all test servers. And this time we had to write some code, but again, it was not difficult. We just had to click on a few methods, and it could send those files. But this interface is at its beginning, so there may be some things you can't do with it, and you'll have to rely on writing code on VI or something else. So you can see here that the history of applying, and things have been applied today and yesterday. So you can search what has changed if you want. So I won't show you how to write code within VI. It will be a bit longer. So what you've seen within the interface is what we call NCF. NCF is those methods that are used to produce a technique. So it's a bunch of easy-to-use methods to copy a file, to make templates, and a lot of other things. I didn't detail everything. And it's made to be independent of Rudder. If you want to use it, you can just use it without using Rudder, just to make it easy to write technique. So, a last one. I'd like to know if there's rules that are not applied anymore. And to do that, you can click everywhere on the interface, but clicking is not fun, and you may have a lot of rules. So you may want to automate this. So Rudder is based on a fully RESTful interface, a RESTful API. So you can ask anything to Rudder using a command line. So I'll show you how I did that. Okay. So I wrote a little script. Better. So this is the command I use to list all the directives. This single command returns a list of JSON structures, and you can do whatever you want with it. And I use JQ to parse it. Do you know JQ? You should. It's very powerful. You can do almost anything with it over JSON. So I list all the directives and just get the ID. So with JQ, I get only the list of our directive and get only their ID. And for each ID, I list all the rules and filters only the one that have this directive within it. And then just display something. Display the directive name and ID. So let's run this. And a bit long, it works. So you can easily extend and manipulate Rudder server and its rules, its techniques, its directive, everything within Rudder via a REST API. So you didn't see the REST API here because we built a command line interface over it, but it's still a REST API, and we wrote the command line in Python, and so it's easy to use. What did I want to show? Yes, this API is based on tokens. So you use token to authenticate. Here it's written within a configuration file for the command line. So this token is here, and this token can be accessed from within the interface, and so we can know who did something and why. Well, not why, but who did something and when. So here's our API accounts, and with the token, it was this one. I know its name it was made for an admin script. So you can see in the event log, if it wants, you can see what has been done. So there's a problem. Okay. it works. Okay, now you'll have to trust me. And so you can see, even within, even if you are using the API, you can see what is going on and who did something, not only when you go through the interface. So I've been through what Rudder is. I hope you now know what is Rudder, and I hope you find it interesting. May want to try it. We have on our website, it's not here, it's rudderproject.org. We have sample demos, and you can build your own ones using Vagrant. So we have a Vagrant project on GitHub if you want to try it. And I showed you how to use it on the real life problems. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Questions?
So the question is Rudder on on a repository for every system? Yes, it is. I'm surprised you can't find it for Ubuntu. It's for Ubuntu. We don't have every Ubuntu version, but we have. Yes, it's a public repository. Yes, you can use it. And we have on our repository we have all Rudder versions too. So if you want to use a specific version, an older one, you can still use it from the repository.
Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.